You are now watching On Point, a news and public affairs show from California State University Northridge.
Welcome to On Point. My name is Daniel Herrera. Today we have the privilege of delving into the world of boxing with none other than the esteemed amateur boxer, Arabi AJ Jarrah. Let's get ready to rumble. Welcome, AJ. Could you please give me your background and involvement in the sport of boxing?
I started it back in 2020. It was towards the end of the year of 2020. I had a lot of anger management issues at the time, and I realized that I needed some outlet. And I was watching a video of Tyson Fury, the boxer, the heavyweight champion, how he managed to get out of his depression, how to deal with his alcoholism, and how to get back in shape through going back to boxing, because he had retired for a short while, and that really inspired me to try out the sport. So I found a gym here in Northridge, and I joined doing the group classes. And sure enough, after a short while, I realized how much of a good outlet that it was for me to release all the anger, frustration that I had in myself, that I had about the world at the time. And I felt that I owed it to the sport, that I should fight and give back to the sport and actually compete in the sport. So I asked John Pullman, who is the trainer and head coach at the gym, if he can train me to fight. And that's when I decided to started training back in 2021, January 2021, to fight. And it's been 3 years, it's been three glorious years.
What weight do you fight at? And what is your amateur record, and how many KOs, wins by KO?
So right now I'm at 11 fights. My record is 7-4. I'm on a roll right now. I have 6 fights that I won in a roll. I have only 1 KO. It's a little bit harder to get a knockout in the amateurs because the design of the gloves are not meant to really inflict a lot of, head trauma to your opponent per se, or to inflict a lot of injury. And also you wear headgear. So, but I only have 1 knockout that I had recently, where the ref had to step in because I had knocked down the opponent on the canvas, and he's like, "Yeah, we're stopping this." In the weight division you asked me, I'm at 156 pounds.
Okay. So can you explain the fundamentals of boxing and how it works? I know they usually like to call it the sweet science of boxing. Talk a little bit about that.
So boxing is it's a very interesting sport. Not only it's because it's the kind of sport that you don't actually play. You don't tell someone, "Oh, I play boxing." You tell them, "I play soccer, I play football, I play baseball." In boxing, you say, "I fight." So it's very, very important for people to realize that boxing requires you to be fully committed so you don't get injured. And some of the best fundamentals is to have good feet, good boxing stance, and a good defense. Defense, I would say, is like 70-75% of the sport. Everyone can throw a punch, everyone can hit the mitts, everyone can hit a paddle or the punching bag, but can you defend yourself from getting actually injured and hurt? So it's very, very fundamental for people to learn the basic footwork, the basic boxing stance, and the defense.
And how would you rate your own defense, since you mentioned that it's such a big factor in the sport of boxing?
So in the first fight that I had, I was obviously very, very nervous. The adrenaline was over the roof. The guy that I was fighting, he was like towering me, and he landed a clean right hand into my left eye that I got a little bit of a black eye. It was very painful for a couple of weeks. And it was then that I decided that I really, really need to focus on my defense, my head movement, my footwork, my hand positioning. And then after that, I was never in any serious injury, barely any scars, barely any bruises on me after that.
What type of drills did you do to improve your defense?
My coach, John Pullman, he likes to use noodles, like, swimming noodles. So he cuts them short to around this size. And it's pretty much you work a lot on the head movement, the slips and the rolls, and actually maintaining your distance from your opponent. Because technically, the best line of defense is actually staying away from the punch, is moving away from the punch. So I would say my footwork and my head movement is definitely a solid fundamental that I have developed.
Now, can you share a defining moment in your boxing career that solidified your commitment to the sport?
It was my second fight. I'll never forget my second fight, because I lost that fight because I was not in the right mentality to fight. I went in to fight an opponent, and I had no intention to fight. and I had no intention to actually cause harm into my opponent. So he won pretty dominantly, and my coach came to after the fight. He told me, he's like, I will never put you in the ring if you cannot find a reason, a why. Why are you fighting? So I had to do some soul searching and really sit down with myself and talk to myself. Why am I fighting? Why am I throwing myself into a boxing ring? And I did some, like I said, soul searching in myself, and I found my why. And my why is, there are no famous Arab world champions ever. There's only one boxer that he was an Arab, but he was more British because he was born and raised in England. His name is Prince Nassim Hamed. And I wanted to be that person that will raise the flag of where I come from, because it has never been risen. And that was like a good start for me to kickstart that engine of commitment.
Who's your favorite boxer, and why? Like, who's your inspiration?
My main inspiration is the very, very great Manny Pacquiao, Pac-Man. Manny Pacquiao, he came from the streets of the Philippines, and he rose to the very, very top. He broke records that it's near impossible for anyone to break. That's one. And number two, his fighting style is very, very explosive. He was a smaller guy fighting taller guys, bigger guys than him sometimes, and still defeating them. And last but not least, going back to the point that I wanted to raise that flag of where I come from, he did that for the Philippines. He was nicknamed the pride of the Philippines. And it's a true story that whenever Manny Pacquiao is fighting, there's almost zero crime in the Philippines, because everyone is sitting on a TV watching his fights, because everyone is inspired by his success. And I want that for myself, and I want to be the pride of the Middle East, the Arab countries.
So you mentioned styles, and obviously styles make fights. I'm sure you've heard of the boxer Dmitry Bivol. He fights in Soviet style.
Soviet style.
Would you say there's a style for Arab?
To be honest, there definitely isn't, because we haven't had that sport active in those countries. There's not much boxing gyms around. There's not as much commitment from the culture towards this sport. And hopefully I can change that narrative myself and be an inspiration to maybe create my own style per se. But I definitely want to be an inspiration.
And as any family would, they'd probably be very hesitant about letting someone they love get into the sport. How did your family react?
My brother was very excited about it. He's like, hell yeah, let's go for it. Let's show them what we're made of. My dad was a little bit hesitant, but he saw my commitment and my desire to be part of the sport, and he gave me all of the support that he can give. My mom was a no-no for her. Was a definitely no-no for her, because she thought that I'm just gonna go in there and get beat up and get hit left and right. And it was not until recently she actually started seeing my fights, because she can see how dominant I've been in my fights recently, and now she can rest easy at night knowing that her son is doing good.
So her opinion changed on...
I would say a little bit changed, but still she's like, why did you not choose swimming? Why did you have to choose boxing? But then I told her that boxing is the one that fulfills my desire to what I want to do in life.
Did you play any other sports growing up?
Regular soccer, because in Syria, everyone plays soccer on the street from the age of 3 until they're like 80 people play all the time. They do pickup games. We have a league. My dad did put us in a swimming school. I have an older brother of mine. Him and we went to a swimming school for 6 years straight. But I never competed on any level. The only sport that I ever competed in is boxing.
And how did that... did you have a passion for soccer, first of all?
To a degree, yes. But then once I moved to the United States, my focus had shifted from soccer to my commitment to college here at CSUN.
I know there's a boxing club here at CSUN. Did you ever get to take part in that?
I didn't, because I did not start boxing until after I graduated CSUN. So it was like few months, like 4 to 5 months, that I decided to try out boxing, and I never knew there was a boxing club out here.
Okay, we're going to hold it there. Now that we have an idea of how AJ got into the world of boxing, we need to understand what it takes to train and prepare for fights. Don't go anywhere as we continue our fascinating discussion with AJ about the training that goes into boxing. Welcome back to On Point. Today we're talking about boxing, and to better understand the sport, our reporter Liana Lorento visited former boxer Fernando Guerrero to get an inside look at his boxing gym.
My name is Fernando Guerrero, an ex-professional boxer, and this is my gym, so I'm the head coach here. What motivated me to get into boxing was my brothers, and actually coming from where I'm from, my parents, very, very tough dad. So then I'm like, if I stay home, I'm gonna do chores. So even though boxing was a little bit tough, I preferred to get hit a little bit instead of doing chores.
Guerrero made the decision to hang up his gloves and transition to coaching.
Boxing was my profession, and then now, once when I got out of it because of my son, then I just decided to teach what I already know, my passion. You better hit him, boy. Get him up. And this is the way. But this is the first boxing gym in Santa Clarita or Canyon Country, and we're gonna do a lot of different things, but we strictly main focus is Fernando Guerrero is doing boxing here.
One of the reasons Guerrero spends hours taking hits is because he's committed to teaching others how to defend themselves.
Everybody needs boxing. It doesn't matter if you want to become a professional fighter. It doesn't matter if you want to become an amateur fighter. Self-defense, you need that.
In his teachings, Guerrero underscores that boxing is not just a physical sport, but a mental game, emphasizing the importance of strategy and focus in the ring.
3, 1, 2. The strength is up here. That's why in my after-school program, when I have them up there, it's chess, not checkers. Like when we play chess with the kids, and I let them know, and this is my opinion, because I don't want people to Google it. Which one is the strongest piece in the chessboard? And everybody says, of course, it's the king, or of course, it's the queen, or of course, it's the whatever. I'm like, the pawn is. You know why? Because that little man could become whoever he wants to be.
Just like in chess and boxing, with strategy and determination, anyone can make their moves count and go for the knockout.
3, 1, 2.
Now, after watching that, what can you compare from your gym to that one, and what are the differences?
I don't think there's much comparison. I think it's compliments to what he was saying. Boxing, he said, it's a lot in here, and there's a great boxer, great Hall of Famer, Bernard Hopkins. He would say boxing is almost 90% mental than physical, because a lot of people can train, a lot of people can get in shape, but can you fight? And can you fight not necessarily to just compete or hurt someone, but can you fight to defend yourself? Can you fight for your rights? Can you fight for what you believe in? And boxing can definitely give you that confidence that you need in your life. And boxing translates to a lot of things in life too, because a lot of people go through adversity and they have their own struggles in life, and you just have to push through it and do your absolute best, and then whatever the outcome is, you have to accept it and deal with it. But as long as you put in your best into whatever obstacle is in your way, you should be proud of yourself. Another point that I completely agree with him, boxing is chess, not checkers. It's definitely a thing to look at while you're playing a chess game with an opponent. Not only you're trying to move your pieces in a certain way that you want to get your victory, is you're also trying to stop your opponent from getting the victory on you. And that translates a lot into boxing, because not only you're trying to force your will on your opponent, you're also trying to not let him force his will on you and try to get the victory or actually hurt you.
I want to point out in the package that he said he's training his son.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of bond do you think that builds when a father and son both share the sport?
It's a special bond, because that's how I feel about my coach. Although he's not my dad or he's not related to me in any shape or form, it becomes more than just a father and a son. It becomes like mentor and a mentee relationship. with like a student and a teacher. It has so many layers into it. And it definitely shows a special bond, especially when the son wins whatever victories that he gets. It becomes the victory of the family and the pride of the family. Both of them win at the end of the day, and definitely the father will be very, very proud of his son, and the son will be very proud to be having his father in his corner, and I think that's a very powerful thing.
So I want to delve into mental aspects. What does your typical fighting regime look like leading up to a fight?
I try to do 2 workouts a day, and I try to pace them a little bit differently. I like to run 3 times a week. Like I pace them. I train 6 days of the week. Let's start with that. And I like to run 3 days of the week between 3 to 5 miles. And on the other days, I like to go hit the weights at a fitness gym. And then 6 days of the week in the evening, I do boxing training, pure boxing training. Every day is different depending on what my coach John has in store or planned for me or for the other people that also train sometimes with us. But most of the time, we like to focus a lot on defensive drills, and we spar once a week, sometimes between each other at the gym, or sometimes I go to another gym and spar other people from that gym.
And what does sparring look like? Is it, do you guys fight differently, like at a high pace when preparing for a fight in camp, or what does that look?
So the way we look at sparring, it's not a fight. It's definitely not a fight, because when you're fighting someone, you try and really mess them up. But when you're sparring, you don't try to go 100% with your punches, especially that you're going to be doing more rounds than an actual fight. Like when I spar around 6 rounds, but then when I fight, I'm only fighting 3 rounds. And we try to focus a lot on technique and actually staying calm, collected, sharp, and focused. And sometimes the sparring session could be focused. Let's say the person I'm sparring with might be less skilled than me, so I get the chance to work more on my defense than actually punching him. And it just depends on the session, but it's mainly you're not going 100%, you're going 60, 70%.
Now, I like that you mentioned it's not a fight. You both are there for the learning experience and to get better. How does one deal with anger issues when it comes to a spar?
Some people can lose their temper, and then people have to step in. I've never had to witness that myself, where people had to step in and actually separate the two guys that are sparring. But anger is a regular thing. Like I mentioned earlier, I had my anger issues, and obviously if you get hit, you're not happy. So you just got to stay calm and focused, because that will take you out of your mental focus, out of the game plan that you're trying to execute. So it's always calm. It's always a good thing to breathe, and actually just breathe and get your heart rate in place, and then go back to doing the work that you're doing.
And how important is physical and mental preparation in boxing?
Physical is definitely, they're both very, very important. They go hand in hand. Like I mentioned earlier, mental aspect is very, very important, because you have to believe that you're the best. You have to believe that you're the better person, that you're the better boxer, that you're the hardest puncher. But at the same time, you cannot believe in that if you don't put in the work at the gym and actually sharpening your tools, right? And you have to take care of your body on so many levels. Like you should not be smoking or drinking or eating like food that will down the line can destroy your body.
Clearly, boxing takes a lot of training and preparation, but are the challenges and triumphs worth it? We'll discuss that when we get back.
If you're buzzed and doing this to make yourself feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive.
Welcome back to On Point. I'm your host, Daniel Herrera, and we've been having a conversation about boxing with AJ. We've learned a lot about his journey into boxing and how he trains, but now we're going to look into what some of the payoffs are. So, what are the biggest challenges you faced, and how have you overcame them?
Staying disciplined. Definitely staying disciplined with not only with the training regime, but it's also with what you do outside the gym. Because like I mentioned earlier, you have to take care of your body. So for me, I used to be over 200 pounds before I entered boxing. I had a habit of stress eating, and I used to be a little bit big, so I developed that habit. Whenever things go south for me, I gotta go eat some junk food to release some of it. The biggest challenge is being disciplined and committed, because at some point, and this is a very well-known thing, as much talent as anyone can have, if they don't put in the work in the gym and being consistent and being there every day, that you can go, because sometimes life gets in the way, you can't make it to the gym, or you might have to get some accommodation. Let's say like you're hungry, but there's only like a McDonald's available. You're like, might as well eat McDonald's, although I wish I can't eat McDonald's. But it's definitely doing your absolute best to be disciplined and committed to the craft of the sport.
And how would you say your discipline has improved over the years of boxing?
It only gets better. It was a struggle at the beginning to just get started, because once you start, and the start is always hard. Starting doing something that's good for you is always harder than actually maintaining it. So for me, I didn't know how to start to actually take care of my body, how to take care of my health, both on physical and mental aspect. And it all started by me asking questions, asking for help. I asked John, my coach. I've asked my teammates, the guys I used to train with, Josh Zuniga and Terrell Williams, Devin Tomko. These guys used to train at the gym. And I used to ask them all kind of questions. What kind of workouts do you do outside of boxing gym? What kind of food do you eat? What's good for you? What should I stay away from? And just keep asking these right questions, and then just following that path that set out for myself of being disciplined and just being committed to it.
And what would you tell your past self if you were able to speak to them on the first day that they started boxing?
Be patient. Be patient, because when I started doing boxing, I thought I was going to be the best of the best, like the snap of a finger, and it takes time. It takes a lot of time, and there were some times where I was frustrated. I was being impatient. I thought that I was ready for some fights. For example, my second fight, like I mentioned, I thought I was ready. I got in the ring, and it's like out of the window, everything that I learned in boxing. So I would tell myself to be patient. Be very, very patient. This stuff takes time.
What does your diet and nutrition regimen look like to stay in fight shape?
So whenever I'm training for a fight, when I'm not training for a fight, I eat a little bit over the diet that I have set for myself. I can go a little bit overweight. I like to fast. I like to do intermittent fasting. I like to eat my first meal around noon, like between 11 a.m. to 12:30. And I like to make my own small sandwich. It's a whole wheat bread with some hummus, ham, and some pickles. And that's will be my sandwich. And until my next meal, I usually snack on fruits. Sometimes I like to snack on Greek yogurt. It's high in protein, so I really like that. And then for the evening, if I'm trying to cut weight, I try to eat a salad and stay away from carbs as much as I can. But if I'm on weight, I might eat like rice and chicken, rice and meat. I like to stay close with the rice.
And how do you handle setbacks and injuries during training or in a fight?
I've been injured one time on the day of my fight. I was having breakfast and I sliced an avocado, and then I wanted to get to the pit. And me, being a genius, decided to get the pit with the sharp point of the knife. So I went to grab the pit. I ended up slicing my hand all the way through. And that was on the day of the fight. I had to go to the emergency room and get it stitched. Obviously, I didn't end up fighting. And at the time, I was very, very mad at myself, because, it's your mistake. You didn't do things properly and you got injured. But now reflecting on it after a few years, I'm glad that I cut my hand, because I was not fully ready to fight. But like how to handle a setback, going back to your question, it's just be patient. You'll get your chance again. You'll recover, you'll heal, and you'll get your chance to shine again.
Well, that sounds very painful. I hope you don't have to go through that again.
Hopefully not.
At this point, we've examined the various aspects of boxing. But what does the future of boxing look like? We'll discuss that after the break. Welcome back to On Point. We've been discussing the various aspects of boxing with amateur boxer AJ, but now it's time to look ahead to the future. So AJ, where do you see the future of boxing heading, both in terms of competition and entertainment? Because I know social media is getting involved with boxing. We see influencers fighting. Where do you see it heading?
I cannot predict the future. I would say there will always be boxing. Fighting has always been a sport since the dawn of time, the dawn of civilization. I think the sport of boxing is in a little bit of in a weird place right now because a lot of boxers are asking for a lot of money, and they're trying to dodge the fighting each other. Especially some of the big names are trying not to fight each other, due to either they don't want to have a stain on the record or they want a lot of money. And I hope that becomes less of an issue down the line, so we can get to see, because I enjoy the sport of boxing. I don't do this for the money, I do it for the glory. And I sure hope that people start looking at it more of a sport rather than a business.
You mentioned that. What other improvements would you like to see in the sport of boxing?
I would say attention. I don't think boxing gets as much attention as some other sports. I think the sport of boxing is a very classy and violent still type of sport. I just think we need more attention and more audience, which why I think a lot of these influencers are trying to jump on the sport to gain a more audience of non-boxers into the sport.
And what advice would you give to an aspiring boxer looking to pursue a career?
Be patient, be disciplined, be committed.
As someone who's deeply involved in the sport, what changes would you like to see implemented in boxing to ensure its growth and sustainability, other than the fact that the fighters are kind of worried about having a stain on the record?
Mm-hmm.
What other changes?
I think if there was any change, I think is to actually give opportunity for fighters from other countries. I don't think there's a lot of talent around the world that does not get much recognition, does not get much attention or support. And I think a lot of these promoters could have a lot of opportunity to get more talent from other countries and maybe invest in some of those countries that might produce some talent.
So would you say boxing has changed over the years, because now it's almost more like a business than people fighting to feed their families? And
a lot of boxers start the sport to have an opportunity to feed their families, but there's like almost a threshold. Once people hit, all they care about is the income. And I think the sport back in the day was everyone fights everyone, and some people used to fight every other weekend. Nowadays, people do like a 1 year, a 2 year layoff until they fight again, and they ask for a big, huge amount of money. And I don't feel like the sport should be like that. I would like to see also some consistency, especially for the top tier boxers and champions out there.
Well, AJ, I want to thank you for coming to our show.
Thank you for having me.
Great answers. Well, that's all we have for you today. We've discussed the sport of boxing from an insightful in-ring perspective. Thank you to our guest, AJ, for giving us a look into what boxing is really about. I'm your host, Daniel Herrera, and you've been watching On Point.